My first story begins with a guy named Ethan, someone I met on a dating app. I wasn't instantly smitten. He was tall, muscular, and a bit too self-assured for my taste. I usually go for softer, quieter types. But Ethan's wit, charm, and nerdy passion for movies won me over. I'm a huge fan of horror, especially the Conjuring series, and loved catching films on opening night. Ethan suggested we see a new horror movie, The Veil, together. A theater date felt safe. If it went south, I could just focus on the screen. He picked me up at a coffee shop near my place, never give strangers your address, and we headed to the theater. He was fun, knowledgeable about films, and made the evening enjoyable, even if he was skeptical about the movie's quality. He promised to make the night unforgettable, which I assumed meant some flirty moves in the back row. We grabbed popcorn and settled into the back row of a small-town theater, nearly empty since we arrived early. We chatted through the ads, laughed a bit, and shared popcorn, our hands brushing occasionally. The movie started, and while I found it decent, Ethan kept whispering about how awful it was, saying it needed more scares. Then he told me to look down. I felt something press into my side. A massive hunting knife, its tip grazing me. His voice was calm but chilling. "Stay quiet, keep watching, or this goes in." I froze, trembling as he continued joking about the film like nothing was wrong. For 90 minutes, I sat in terror, stifling sobs, unsure if he'd stab me when the credits rolled. My mind raced. Would he act like this was normal? Would I survive the night? When the lights came up, I saw the knife was a prop, branded with a horror movie logo, designed to look real but harmless. Ethan grinned, thinking he'd enhance the experience, saying, "Didn't I make it scarier?" My rage exploded. I threw the popcorn in his face, stormed out, and told the theater manager, a friend, who urged me to call the police. The charges were minor, something about causing distress, but the prop knife and dim lighting limited what could be done. I pressed charges anyway, and a sympathetic judge granted a restraining order. Ethan seemed to think I overreacted, unable to grasp why I didn't find his prank thrilling. To him, I wasn't a true horror fan. To me, he was a reckless idiot who made me fear for my life. The second story happened during a packed showing of The Silence of the Lambs in 1991. My friend bailed last minute, so I went alone, squeezing into a crowded theater as the commercials played. The guy next to me wore a heavy coat and hat, odd for the warm spring evening, and his body odor was overpowering. I focused on my popcorn to cope. The movie was intense, and I occasionally felt his shoulder brush mine, nudging him back. I thought he was snoring, feeling slight vibrations, but ignored it as the film gripped me. I finished my snacks and stayed through the credits to avoid the crowd, noticing the man hadn't moved. Thinking he was asleep, I tapped his shoulder, saying, "Hey, you okay?" His body slumped over, hat falling off, revealing a pale, lifeless face. He was dead, not just recently, but for the entire movie. I'd been sitting next to a corpse for 2 hours. Police later explained the sounds and movements were gases escaping his decomposing body, a natural process. They ruled it non-suspicious, likely an overdose, but wouldn't say more. The man had sat through multiple showings, unnoticed by staff. I was haunted by the thought of him choosing such a grim film as his last. Why The Silence of the Lambs? Did it hold some personal meaning, or was it just the emptiest screening that day? The theater's negligence and his silent presence still unsettle me. The third story took place in January 1997 during a showing of Scream. My girlfriend Lisa and I, both college freshmen, chose it for a date night, knowing horror films made her clingy in a fun way. The theater was sparse, perfect for us to share popcorn and get cozy. During a scene about horror movie rules, a guy a few rows ahead, let's call him Greg, started yelling at the screen, ranting about the film's take on the genre. It was the 90s, people didn't shout in theaters, so his outburst was jarring. Another guy, Tom, sitting next to him, snapped back, telling him to shut up. They were strangers, stuck in assigned seats despite the empty theater. Greg calmed down briefly, but soon stood up, shouting again, directing his anger at the director's choices. Lisa shrank in her seat, hoping to avoid notice. Tom stood too, a skinny guy facing the much larger Greg, confidently poking his chest and demanding silence. I whispered to Lisa that Greg would back down, but I was wrong. Greg roared, his voice cracking, and snapped Tom's finger backward with a sickening crack. Tom stumbled, shock on his face, as Greg charged, tackling him to the floor and pummeling him. Blood sprayed from Tom's mouth as Greg ranted incoherently about horror and disrespect. I started toward them, ignoring Lisa's pleas, but before I could act, a woman, call her Diana, vaulted over seats like an athlete. She kicked Greg off Tom, sending him sprawling, and sprayed mace in his face. Diana, an off-duty detective, restrained him with zip ties she carried. Tom had broken teeth but was okay. Greg faced charges, and we got refunds and free tickets, though Greg likely didn't. Lisa and I didn't stay together, but were still connected online. I never finished Scream, leaving its ending to my imagination, where reality's chaos often outdoes fiction. Years ago, I worked as a cleaner at a large city theater. Friday nights were a mess: popcorn, spilled soda, candy wrappers, even a bologna sandwich once, squashed into a seat. People brought in food we didn't sell, and the filth was unreal, requiring gloves and strong detergent. One night, around 2 a.m. after a midnight showing of Hereditary, I was cleaning in dim lighting, the theater's cost-cutting habit. The spooky film's end had me on edge, but I worked with my trash bag and claw. Something moved near the front, like a person crawling fast across an aisle. I called out, hoping for no answer, and got none. I kept cleaning, dismissing it as my imagination. Then I heard popcorn crunching and saw a soda cup fly across the room. A shadow darted near the screen, followed by silence. I crept toward the exit, but my shoe stuck in sticky soda, making noise. More skittering came from below. In the dim light, I saw a thin, gaunt figure crawling commando-style across an aisle, a teenage girl with dirty blonde hair and food smears on her face. She leaped over seats, charging at me, yelling in a language I couldn't understand. Panicked, I froze. She looked starved, eating floor scraps. When she tackled me, I thought she just wanted to escape, not hurt me. My back cracked against a seat, but I was unharmed. Grabbing her head, I pointed to a popcorn pile, yelling for her to eat. She did, diving for it. I urged her to leave, pointing to the exit. She grabbed one last handful and ran. I never reported it, fearing she was a runaway who'd face worse if caught. Months later, I saw her at the theater with a shady-looking man, maybe someone she'd escaped or been sent back to. Nighttime theater cleaning taught me there's more to fear than spilled food. In the mid-2000s, I was in my college's AV club, where we hosted bi-weekly movie nights to practice using projectors. It was more about watching films than tech, especially for me. My friend Jake, the club president, was like a brother, funny, smart, and a bit like a quirky rapper. I had no clue he had a crush on me, even joking with my friend Matt that Jake liked him. Matt and I, a jock and AV geek, started dating, becoming a campus power couple. Movie nights went smoothly until Jake's turn on April 13, 2007. He chose Friday the 13th Part 5 and an indie horror film he'd hyped up, called Heart Devoured. The film opened with shaky footage of someone creeping through woods, heavy breathing on the mic. The dorm building looked like Matt's. I realized it was filmed on campus in February, using our club's camcorder. The camera approached Matt's ground floor window, and my stomach dropped. That day, Matt and I had been intimate, forgetting to close the curtains. The film showed us, our faces blurred but bodies clear, portrayed as villains in a distorted narrative. The filmmaker, clearly Jake, had spied on us. Matt tensed, ready to fight, but I stopped him. Reacting would reveal it was us. The final scene showed Jake, masked, writing "My heart is gone" in lipstick on a mirror, revealing a fake chest wound before cutting to black. The club applauded awkwardly, unaware of the truth. Matt and I sat through the second film, pretending nothing happened. We didn't confront Jake, instead acting clueless when he hinted at the footage. A year later, as sophomores, I hosted a late-night screening. Matt and I posted anonymously online, describing Jake as a campus creep, suggesting a masked confrontation at his apartment's location after our event. We stayed away, but word spread that Jake was ambushed, humiliated, and left tied up, his belongings trashed. Police called it a mugging. Jake never spoke of it, and neither did we. His actions were vile, but our revenge made us question if we'd become monsters too. After lockdowns eased in the UK, my family went to a theater in 2021. My kids, aged 8 and 6, picked Shazam! Fury of the Gods, thinking it was Captain Marvel. The movie was dull, and a group of teens near the front were loud, using phones. A woman nearby, maybe with her son or partner, seemed furious. Instead of asking them to quiet down, she leaped over seats, screamed at them, and grabbed a teen's phone, smashing it. When another teen confronted her, she swung a wooden brush, hitting him so hard it broke. Chaos erupted, kids cried, adults shouted. I rushed my family out and alerted staff about the assault. The next day's paper mentioned an altercation, but I found no further details. Maybe she paid to hush it up. It was terrifying, but at least we escaped the rest of that awful movie. As a kid in a small English town in the 1990s, I loved our new 5-screen cinema. One day, before a film, I needed the bathroom but didn't want to bring my popcorn and drink. My mom was chatting with a staff friend, so I waited near the bathroom corridor. A tall man in a long, dark green raincoat, maybe in his 50s, walked straight into the women's bathroom. It felt wrong, so I told my mom when she arrived. She got a female employee who checked and found both bathrooms empty. I was certain he hadn't left. I'd watched the whole time. Years later, part of the cinema's ceiling collapsed, revealing a large, poorly built crawl space above. I believe the man accessed it through a vent, vanishing to do something unknown. Or maybe the theater is haunted by a spectral figure lurking near the bathrooms. Either way, the memory chills me.